Yeah, just deep-seated roots. So when I was 14, is when my lust problem started.
Okay.
So ever since then, breaking that 8-year addiction to
Yeah.
porn and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This past year, I've been trying to address all the deep-seated issues, the
Yeah.
roots left over from that.
Yeah.
And one of those is the want of a girlfriend, coveting a girlfriend, and coveting the fact that a girlfriend is like not just wanting her for the, not just wanting her for a girlfriend, wanting her for what's in between her legs.
Yeah, of course, of course.
And so just trying to, and realizing that I can't move forward, or I'm not ready for the next step yet. I'm not ready to speak and to do stuff yet until I just see the roots.
Yeah.
And I just found out, just by talking to myself, found out some of those deep-seated roots. The fact that trying to get comfortable with the fact that I was never blessed with a girlfriend at 14.
Yeah.
So and just always asking and wondering why. And I feel like I know the reason why, but knowing that if he would have gave me that at 14, I probably have like 4 or 5 kids right now.
Of course.
The deep-seated just lust issue. So just trying to, how do I better just address those roots and cut them off at the source?
Well, first it starts with contentment. You defeat covetousness with contentment.
Okay.
The reason why we covet is because we're looking for something else to fulfill that void. So we covet, excuse me, what someone else have, or what we desire most. We covet it because we feel like that thing would be our God. That thing will sustain whatever that I'm searching for. So in order to defeat coveting or coveting a girl or covetousness is to say, am I content with God? Right now, before we even think about the next level, we got to ask ourselves, am I content with God at this stage? Yeah. If I'm not content, any and everything can become an idol to me because I'm not content in who he is. He has to be everything before he gives us anything. Until he's everything, he won't give us anything, because anything can become an idol. Now, and then when it comes to lustful things, first off, 14 years old, no man is good enough to be able to sustain a woman's needs. He's still young-minded. There's still so many lessons that he have to learn. So what we have to understand is God's timing is perfect. Since God's timing is perfect, what is God doing in between this moment and his real moment for me to have love or companionship? He's trying to develop you. Now, we sometimes find ourselves avoiding what needs to be addressed. The reason why we don't advance is because we avoid. We don't advance because we don't avoid what we need to address. We got to address the little things and the big things. Many of us, we try to address the what's seen of our sin versus the core of our sin. So what happens is we address the pornography, the masturbation, the sex, the fruit of it, but never tackle the weeds and the seeds by which this thing was birthed. Because everything in our lives comes from a conception. We were conceived before we were born. Everything in life comes from a conception. That's why you knew the exact year that you struggle with it. Now you have to ask yourself, how strong is that stronghold? Now, most people's sins are oak trees, thick like oak trees, but they try to use a kid's axe to knock it down. So what happens is they thinking, okay, well, this is nothing. I haven't watched porn. I haven't done anything in some time. Just because you haven't done it in some time doesn't mean the tree is removed out of your life. It doesn't mean that you did all that you had to do to make sure that the roots were plucked up. Meaning, before I endeavor to spread my branches wide, I got to first ask, how deep are my roots? Because if my life has not been uprooted and rerooted in him, then no matter what tree we birth will be birthed from a form of godliness, will be birthed from a lust that we didn't address. Everything, you can be able to stop the symptom. That doesn't mean the core is not still there. So most people do not understand the demonic tactics against us. They want us to covet something that we're not mature enough to handle. That's why the Bible says don't awaken love before it's time. Because if you awaken love before it's time and you've proven to be too immature to handle love, love will break you. Marriage comes with responsibilities. Marriage comes with certain standards. And many immature people are partaking into something that's mature. That's why the position and the gift of marriage is too heavy for them to carry. And now when you understand that God has so much value on marriage, so much value on companionship, so much value on stewardship, so much value on discipleship, he says before you get into any of those ships, you got to make sure you know how to sail. You got to make sure you know how to get this thing from coast to coast. When you understand that, you'll say, you know what? I'm not even content enough in God to be able to understand even how to handle that next stage. Contentment is key, because when you're content in God, you'll know for a fact what you are and what you're not prepared for. When it comes to a woman, that time is going to come.
Yeah.
If you force it, you're going to be forced out of it.
Yeah.
Or most Christians are together. See, a lot of people are with someone that God never intended for them to be with.
Yeah.
But God can redeem any relationship even if wasn't his original intent. So many people have settled for God's second best because they're not willing to wait for his best for them.
Yeah.
So when that happens, people says, well, we just don't fit together. Why is this thing not flowing well? It's because you coveted, you captured, and now you upset and want to be out of it because you led yourself there. Any relationship that God puts together, no man can put asunder.
Yeah.
Only the people in it can, but both people have to be totally committed and content in God. Then he will help any companionship that we endeavor to have it. Until those areas are implanted in us, we'll never be able to handle the pressures and the weights of marriage, because marriage requires three people. It requires you, the woman, and God. If God's not in the middle of that, that thing will unravel every single time. Yeah. Therefore, if lust was a previous problem, you got to treat that. You got to treat that problem as if it can always come up at any moment.
Yeah, still, yeah. I'm still in that, trying to treat like not broken it. I've been free from it a couple weeks ago.
Now you got to be
and now I'm trying to stay faithful to it, and just every single day trying to stay faithful to it. But in trying to stay faithful to it, when I fell back, I'm just like, what's the real reason why? And it's just like, I feel like that lust spilled over into just covenant. It's like even down to what I would wear. Coming here some days, I would leave my house at 3 o'clock to go to work. I'd just like, what should I wear today? Because I gotta look fresh for the girls. Even when we was out on Saturday, just wearing a certain shirt, I didn't realize it until this past week. I'm just like, just dressing a certain way, doing certain things, going to the gym, looking at certain women, like, is that the one? Is that the one? And just realizing that I was coveting that, and just like, how can I better address it, and how to cut it off. So at the beginning of, before it's even birthed into what it was, what it is now, what's some warning signs, and just
First you got to sit there and ask yourself, am I immersed with my purpose? Okay. Am I overly focused? Am I focused in it? See, right now if I go to the Cleveland Cavaliers training camp or the Golden State training camp, I can have one of the little carts. Like I can have a frozen pop cart, I can have a donut cart, I can have all these different things. I would probably not be successful because it's season time.
Yeah.
Their level of focus helps them eradicate anything that's going to derail that focus.
Yeah,
so what keeps me focused, I'm too productive in what I'm supposed to do that I have no room for idle time. When you have idle time, you have idle mind. If you have an idle mind, you got idle hands. You got idle hands, you have an idle life. So it's a level to this. If you don't have idle time to even think about certain things, then you won't even give yourself any occupancy in your mind to even think about it too much. So to help you specifically, you have to ask yourself, okay, I know when it was conceived, now what developed this sin in me? Now I got to ask myself, am I really content in God? Do I like me? Do I love me? Do I care about me? Do I even have something that makes me have a drive beyond the temptations? These are questions you have to ask, because that's a soul problem. Not even a lust problem, not even a body problem. That's a soul problem. So you got to ask yourself, what have I replaced God with to handle these voids? And until you answer that question and you immerse yourself with God with relentless discipline, without that you won't overcome it. Now, will that sin try to creep up again? The creeping up of the sin is predicated on your commitment. If you're committed to God and your disciplines are intact, you'll never go back to that way of life again. Mm-hmm. It's a mindset though. Wherever your mind sits, your life sits. Wherever your mindset is, that's where your life is sitting. So you got to ask yourself, where is my mind? Is my mind where it is because of what I consumed? Yes, that's true. If I'm always watching certain type of videos, always watching certain type of interviews, always watching people who have those same ideologies, who are consumed with clothing, who are consumed with women, those things will soak into your subconscious, flow into your conscious mind, and then you become a direct replica of what you consume. But if you consume the Word of God, you begin to have a clearer mind, a clear understanding of how to view these different things. Nothing wrong with nice clothes. It's nothing wrong with having nice clothes when those nice clothes have you.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, now you are a prisoner of trends. And what happens when trends come out? It affects your money.
Yeah.
Now you investing, you better be making money from fashion if you're going to be fashionable.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like if you want to go that route, I bet your eBay better be popping. You better have an online store. You better have a booming.
Yeah.
You better be reaping from that. That better be a gift. But if
Yeah.
it's a consumption and you ain't making no profit off of it, that's a residue of a heart problem. So you got to ask yourself, why am I consuming these different things? When I play sports, I used to consume Little John and East Side Boys back in the day, and all these different people. And I used to wonder, why am I cussing in games? I don't cuss. Why am I cussing in games? I consumed cussing, therefore I cuss. Whatever you consume, you will resume.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense, but
So when it comes to that, so being content in just every single day, is that just like a question? Like I feel like every single day, what I've been doing is just like, yeah, I'm trying to get to that point where it's just could be just me, you, and God. Me, God, and my. If it has to be just me, God, and my family, I know He'll give me the desires of my heart. He knows I never know what a girlfriend felt like, so I know I'm gonna get that. I know I'm gonna get that wife. I'm gonna get there. But being content in the what if, and being content whether or not at the present moment, and just trying to just. What are some? I know probably you should just say just getting in the word every single day.
I feel go ahead.
Yeah, and just getting in the word every single day like that. But is there like certain questions I could ask God about, or just certain things I can say?
The number one question you ask yourself is, why am I not content? I always tell people when it comes to questions like that, get a pen and a sheet of paper, and really look and examine your heart. Ask yourself, number one, why am I not content? Why? Why am I not? Number two, what can I do to be content? Who do I need to be content in? And then you got to go and find out, how do I be content? Who, what, when, where, how? Who do I need to be content with? Who, what? What do I need to do to be content? Who, when, what, when? How often should I show up to keep my contentment going? Where do I have to go? Where's my place to meet with God every day? Where and how? How do I do it? Your how is mostly focused on your why. If there's no why, you'll be just loose out there. Your why has to say, God, you're too good.
That's what I've been doing.
That's the beginning.
Yeah.
Now the discipline has to kick in.
Okay.
The desire is there. Most people lose because they only have desire but no discipline. Desire left alone doesn't mobilize you.
Okay.
Desire may get you up the road,
Yeah.
but discipline gets you to the destination. So desire is like, I have a quarter tank of gas, but I have a 500-mile trip. The desire is there. It got you further than where you are, but it didn't get you where you were supposed to be. Discipline has to kick in and says, you know what? How can I practice little things right now to make me more disciplined? Set you some 21-day goals. 21 days is usually the amount of days that can make you reverse a habit. So say for 21 days, I'm going to show up at this time, my when. I'm going to show up when, here, my where, and I'm going to do this for 21 days. In 21 days, that habit will be engrafted in you. Then you'll be momentum. You have momentum. Okay. And over time, I'm not saying you're going to be content tomorrow. That's not realistic.
Yeah.
But give yourself 6 months. Before you even think about anything, give yourself 6 months not to think about nothing else but your content. Okay. Because now you got to focus.
Yeah.
Okay, every 21 days I'm going to implement a new discipline until I get to 6 months. 6 months is going to come here whether you want it to or not. So, at the end of those 6 months, your stock would have rose that much.
Yeah.
Your contentment would have rose that much. And now you're like, I done found my purpose in the 6 months. Look at my life. Was I perfect? No. But it started with one video. One video turned to 10. 10 turned to 20. 20 turned to 50. 50 turned to 600.
Yeah.
One book turned to 2. 2 books turned into a 3. Productivity will keep you from sinning. Yeah. Productivity will keep you from being idle. Productivity be like, I can't mess around because I got a deadline. When you do that and you're immersed with the person of God and you're immersed in your purpose, man, all that stuff becomes superficial and it becomes a distaste to you and you no longer want to engage with it.
All right, well, that's it. That's all I have.
Good stuff, bro.
Yes, sir.